Hello, hello. Oh my goodness. If you guys had been in the green room, we were prepping and chatting about all things related to QBR. And we got some good stuff coming up. All right. I am here with Marnie Stockman, co-founder of Lifecycle Insights. Marnie, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right. So we were talking about, it's so funny, where I started this conversation was, hey, do you happen to have any like statistics about QBRs, which sounds like such a dull.
We started with the fun right out of the
We started with the fun. Hey, let's talk about numbers. But you did, like, you were talking about Paul Dipple and some of his numbers. So I want to start there, and we're going to weave around that and some sales conversations, as well as I want to learn about what just came out with Lifecycle Insights, maybe some sneak peeks at what's coming soon. And then we'll go from there. I hope we have time to talk about your newest, latest, greatest book. So this is going to be packed. We have all kinds of things to talk about, but let's talk about the most fun thing ever, which is statistics.
I was a math major, so I'm more than happy to actually chat statistics, but I'll keep it simple. How's that?
No, please keep it simple. I appreciate that. I don't want to fall asleep on a live. That would be
that would be terrible. Like knock knock Zoom. Can somebody,
like, Jennifer, are you still
off?
All right. So QBRs, it feels like it's a staple. Like, it feels like if I asked MSPs to show me, their silver, gold, platinum, or their one size fits all, that there are just some pay to play things that would be on there. Patch management will probably be on there. Backups will probably be on there. I hope cybersecurity is on there. And I would assume QBRs would be on there. But it may be on the chart, but is it actually happening in real life?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I have two thoughts on that. The first is, I say QBRs are like the weather. Everybody's talking about it. Nobody's doing anything about it, right? So now that used to be the case. When we first launched, for sure, we were one of the few beating the drum of QBRs. Now, literally everyone is talking about it, but not everyone has actually done something about it. So I am a part of a peer group of vendors, and Paul Dipple came and presented to our peer group. And he was talking about his operational maturity index, right? There are about 140-ish questions to determine the level of maturity of an MSP. And he said, but if you take all of those questions, you can boil it down to these two that really define the operational maturity level of an MSP. He did not know Lifecycle Insights was in the room. He did not, so this was not a pre-canned piece that he was saying because I was part of the audience. But he said, number one, what percentage of your clients are getting true quarterly business reviews? And two, what percent of your clients are fully aligned to your stack? Which I thought was very important. So I talk to MSPs all day, every day, right? We have over 700 partners. We talk to hundreds more at all of the events. So we talk to a ton. And I always say, okay, so on the scale of business reviews, from I don't do any at all, some ad hoc, some people get true quarterly business reviews, but others get them at a different cadence, or true quarterly, everybody gets them quarterly business reviews. Most folks hang out in the ad hoc category. Vast preponderance of folks hang out in the ad hoc category. Fewer than 10% hang out at the true quarterly, like a lot smaller than 10%. There's a growing number we've got our enterprise clients that are getting true quarterly, and everybody else is getting into a cadence. And I think that's a really important part. I have absolutely fired vendors before who insisted on meeting with me more than I wanted to be met with. Right? So segmenting your client base to understand what their needs are is super critical. And I will say, they may not need the same quarterly business review each quarter, but you'd better be communicating. You and I were talking about business reviews are your differentiator. And if you are not communicating with your partners, somebody else is. So we need to get ourselves, like build a bridge and get over it. We've got to get to a cadence of delivering those conversations to your partners.
So let's talk about the cadence, because we always call them quarterly business reviews.
I'll stop calling them that when people stop Googling it. I say that all the time.
I get it. Yeah, no worries. And that is like the industry term, is quarterly business reviews. I do have a couple of clients that are like, well, we do periodic business
Yes,
reviews.
TBRs, EBRs,
Yes.
XBRs, like whatever. Yes, this is true. Yeah.
And I like that you said as long as it's a defined cadence. So I know that QBR is the industry term, so no worries there. But do you feel like there is credence to the argument that the larger clients should have a quarterly business review, but perhaps the smaller clients only need one every 5 months, 8 months, every year?
Oh, 100%. So I think first, we like to segment, help our partners segment their clients into value versus effort, right? So your favorite, most profitable clients are going to be high value, low effort, of course, right? But high value, high effort clients are probably the ones that need to have a true quarterly business review, right? HIPAA compliance, Department of Defense, those types of things. And there isn't anyone that would disagree that you've got to stay on top of cybersecurity concerns, risks, new threat actors, right? All of those types of things, right? And keep in mind, that's not just for the sake of the client, but for your business as well. Because if that high value, high effort client becomes at risk of churn, that's a threat to your business, right? So there's a ton of value in that. Now we've got high value, low effort. Again, they're probably our favorite. So I would say semi-annually would be a good cadence for that. And one thing to keep in mind is you still need to have some health checks to figure out that they're still happy, healthy. So of course I am the numbers girl, right? I always have spreadsheets. Until we built the platform, I had spreadsheets with colors that I would manually highlight red, yellow, green. But we need to identify those metrics of what's keeping them happy, healthy. So you can identify, because if someone in that quadrant is at risk of churn, they're your most profitable. Like we need to get all over that. The other piece of why you want to keep track of those is they're great referrals. You want more people just like them. So when they're happy, don't you want to talk to them and find out if there was somebody else like them that could use your services, right? Then you have low value, low effort. And people often think, well, aren't those the ones I want to get rid of? Not if they're on an automated cadence, right? It's nice to not have to talk to someone and still get business out of them sometimes, right? But that doesn't mean they shouldn't know you exist. So if you do not have a means to remarket, so I say remarket and retargeting, and people are always thinking top of funnel marketing.
Right.
I'm saying use your same marketing tools to communicate with your existing clients. We all know newsletters, etc., but do something like you said, like some email box interrupter that lets them know that you're thinking of them. This is what I've done for you lately. Hey, it's Cybersecurity Month, and we know you hate MFA, but because of it, you weren't in the news like this, that, or the other, right? So I think you need to have a cadence for them. Again, those would be appropriate for 1 hour once a year. They don't bring you enough dollars to do, a huge, if you're not bringing in over $1,000 a month with them, how much time could you spend on a quarterly business review if you're looking at it from a strictly profit?
So I'm going to give you an opportunity for like a shameless plug, because yes, you're face to face with your client for an hour, like in this example, an hour a year. But many MSPs are probably listening to this saying, okay, but if I'm in front of the client for an hour, I've got 6-8 hours of prep work that I have to do, my team has to do. And so you've shortened that as well. So this is not necessarily the goal of this live, but you address that as well. That, okay, it really, maybe it won't only be that 1 hour of FaceTime, but how long does it take your typical clients to create a QBR once they're using your platform?
Yeah, and I think it's important. You said once they're using the platform, right? Because there's no question some data cleanup that needs to happen, right? We can talk about our friend who had some terrible data in the other day. He shouted on social media, best thing Lifecycle Insights did was show me where my data was bad. And I said, cheers for us all then, right? He cleaned that up. So once they get going, I would say 90 minutes to prep. But that's a far cry from the 6 to 8 hours that most are taking. I mean, that's why we became a thing, right? One of my co-founders was an MSP, and he and I met after volleyball one night, and he said, I spent 6 to 8 hours today cobbling together, right? That industry term, my business review. Can we automate it? Now, in that 90 minutes, would love to have chats with anyone who wants to know what to deliver in that time period, because it's not what you said. like it's not the patch stats, it's not the spam stats, it's not the antivirus. You got to make it strategic. If you're only going to talk to them for an hour, it better be about delivering their business outcomes. So Lifecycle Insights automation does the asset lifecycle management, user reporting, budget forecasting. All of that is automated so that you can get down to brass tacks and how to drive the strategic value in the conversation.
So I love how you said strategic, because the natural tendency of many people in our industry is to talk about the things they care about, the things they talk about to their peers, how many tickets they closed, how many patches, how many phishing emails they blocked, how many, whatever, all the statistics. And those things are not strategic. They're not what your clients care about. And so one common, I'm going to say complaint, that may not be the right word, but what I hear a lot is, well, I did quarterly business reviews, and then when I went to schedule the next one, my clients were like, I'm good, I'm too busy. And I think that is an indication that what you talked about wasn't valuable, because we will all make time for things that are valuable to us.
Yeah, 100%. So I've got two things around that one. One is one of our partners says, if you're talking about SLAs, you've already turned it into a service level argument, right? Like that should not be what the conversation is about. And two, if you are in exactly the position you said, where someone already doesn't want to come to your second business review because the first one didn't provide value, then the first thing you need to do is apologize. So I would call and say, Jennifer, I'm sorry. Last time we met, I dove into some technical weeds because I'm just a nerd about it. And that's not really what you need to hear. I really want to help, drive some business outcomes. I saw on your website that you're really aiming to help X, Y, or Z industry grow, right? You're looking to move into a new county. You're like, find something you know about them. And, I'm sure you want to make your employees more productive, save time in a tightening economy. Maybe you're looking at ways to save some money. We can really help drive a budget forecast for you, and we could help you take a look at your budget forecast and see if maybe we can save you some money in consolidating tools. One of our partners did this for a prospect, and he said, if you want to share with me your technology contracts, I will happily review them for you. He found 17 different VoIP providers because each individual location had found a little niche need, and they didn't talk to each other because it was a small enough expense, but he was able to save the company in whole $3,000 a month. That was as a prospect. So his $4,000 a month bill was happily given to him. And they said, we want you at the table all of the time because you're looking out for our business and you're being strategic about how you're going about it.
I love this. So this conversation about strategy, you said something a few minutes ago about segmenting your clients and putting them into various categories, or almost like a Gartner Magic Quadrant, if you will. And then you mentioned asking your best clients for referrals. And that's so interesting to me, because I always teach this concept of habit stacking, that, I tell all of my clients, go pull out your QBR agenda and add to an agenda item at the beginning, at the end. I don't care. I don't know that there may be a strategy about asking at one time or the other, but like add a line item for ask for referrals. At least now it's on your checklist. Now it's on your process. And I've been stunned by the number of people that don't have a quarterly business review agenda or process to just go add that line item to. And I'm like, well, how are you doing QBRs if you don't have a process? So it's almost like not having a sales process. So I would imagine many of the people listening to this today don't have a QBR process. They don't have a document. So is this a sit down for 8 hours and create your process? Is it like any other process? Does it just evolve a little bit over time? What's your philosophy there?
What's certainly constant iteration, right? It is also the same way you eat an elephant, one bite at a time. If you say today, Q4, going to be all about quarterly business reviews. I guarantee sometime around December, you're going to be like, I don't think I'm going to have time to get my whole process in place to kick it off tomorrow. Like that's what's going to happen. So bite-sized pieces. You need to have a goal in mind for sure, an end goal of what you want to deliver. But I literally in my email box this morning had an MSP say, hey, Marnie, do you have a process people typically follow in a flow? So we have a default agenda right in the platform to walk them through the pieces and parts we'd recommend, but we don't aim to force a process on people, right? They can add all of the components that they want. But that said, we see people doing two different things. End goal is important. End goal, your client's business outcomes solved by technology. That gets you a budget and a roadmap, right? But how we get there is with a lot of data and little bits and pieces. But they don't care about all those bits and pieces, right? So, but you have to start with the right data. So their inventories, you and I were talking about NIST, everything is starting with identify. If you don't know it's there, you can't fix it, and certainly you can't secure it. So the two inventories everybody starts with, asset lifecycle management, user inventories, right? So we automate that because that is not where you should be spending time other than collecting the data, cleaning it up. Once it's clean, it marches on from there, right? At that point, you can go either way. Once we start with the automation, many like to try their first risk assessment, which is also an iterative process, right? So it's more than just what your agents can find on machines. Do you have MFA in place? Do you have policies around access logging? You know, a mobile device policy, mobile home policy. Maybe you have one of those.
Maybe we need one of those too.
Like. That's a higher end client that has them for everybody on staff. And then that as it aligns to the budget, which again should be automated. So you build your recommendations off of what you found in the inventories and in the assessment. That should lead to the budget that you can project to the client.
Awesome. Okay, so this is a iterative process. Start somewhere.
And start now.
It's so interesting. I was just looking at one of my internal processes this morning, and it's a process on how to manage my calendar because I've got an executive assistant that is helping with my calendar. And that process has been in place for a few months, but then I happened to be on I think it was a peer group call, and one of my peers said, this is how I manage my calendar. Monday, and it was like the 5 Ps, Monday I dedicate to people, and Tuesday is profits, and whatever. There were 5 Ps. Well, I opened up that document and I simply typed future development to test, and then I typed the 5 Ps. So that process allowed me, my existing calendar process allowed me to store some possible gold to unearth later on. And so that's part of the power of a process is you're like, you see step by step, like a checklist or a little flow chart of what you're doing. And then you're on an event like this, or you're at a peer group, or you go to IT Nation Connect in a month, not a few months, and right around the corner. And you hear this great thing about, I could integrate that into my QBR process easily. Well, where do you store that? There's a limit to what you can store in your brain. And the older you get, the smaller that storage capacity becomes, it seems. And so put that in your process, and then that will allow you to remember some possible improvements.
Yeah, because all of those pieces are iterative, right?
Yes.
So it's important to have that cycle to come back to. That's what many folks start with, our just default assessment, and then iterate as they add things to their stack, take things away. The world's changing. When you're moving from a hardware-based system to more cloud-based services, you have to have a process in place for that. And I think same thing. It's got to be iterative.
So I'm looking at the clock because I want to get to your book in a minute.
Sure.
But last thing I want to talk about with regard specifically to QBRs. So you have this saying that your QBR process is your sales process.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So I'm a firm believer that when you're talking to a prospect, you need to help them solve a problem that they're having. So the whole conversation in sales is about helping them deliver on a business objective, some business outcome they're aiming for, right? That is solution selling. Do you have a problem? I bet we can help you solve it, right? So when you have that conversation with them. So imagine, would you want to have someone have a free consultation with you? Like, hey, are you having struggles around, again, productivity, profitability, getting new leads to the top of your sales funnel, opening a new location, expanding, saving time with employees, any of these questions, right? They're all business outcomes. Anyone would be happy to have a conversation around how to solve that problem, right? And when you have that conversation with them and say, okay, so you just said you're expanding, you want to expand to a new county. Have you considered, instead of like creating a new server closet, we move to the cloud, right? Whatever it may be, whatever your, that's where the MSP brings their magic to the table, because they're looking at all the problems mentioned, and all of the software and tools are around saving time, saving money, making money, right? So you have the solutions, it's going to be unique to their problem. So that conversation, super appealing to any business owner. And then you say, part of the services we offer is we have these conversations quarterly so that we can identify other areas of need or risk, right? So I talked about business outcomes, securing them as a business, and identifying business risk is another one of those pieces. We're going to talk about these quarterly so that we can constantly help you move the needle on your business. That's very different from like, let me tell you about the 17 layers of this onion we're going to peel for you. Like, literally the business owners, I just I can't hear you.
Yes.
But we're always going to talk about ways we can improve your business and better secure it. Yeah, I'm in on that conversation. So that's why I say the QBR process is your sales process, because you're differentiating yourself at the beginning. We are going to talk to you about your business regularly. We're going to bring data to the table to show you that it's making an impact on your business. And this is what it's going to be like to work with us all the time.
I love that. I love that you're saying, okay, I'm going to talk about your favorite subject, Mr. or Mrs. Prospect, which is their business impact and the growth of their business, but you're marrying it with technology and how technology can facilitate that. So that may be a good segue into your book, your latest book, because you've got two currently. So do you talk about that at all? Like how to speak about technology from a business owner standpoint, as opposed to a techie geeky standpoint in here?
Yeah, for sure. So I was never an MSP. I don't make that a secret, right? So I'm not overly technical. So I can't get down a flux capacitor rabbit hole if I wanted to, which is a huge advantage sometimes. So I'll not just pitch my book, but I'm going to throw out another book at the same time. So you don't have to take it from me. There's a book called Getting Naked by Patrick Lencioni. You definitely need to Google the last name when you type that in the search engine. But it's all about how to be a business consultant when you're not an expert in the business vertical. But you don't have to be a dentist to help a dentist budget better, to help a dentist drive, some initiatives in their office type of thing. But you asked specifically, like, do I help talk about, have these business conversations instead of technical? And so Juan was an MSP, grew an MSP to be quite large in 6 years. And he tells some stories in here. So one Saturday morning, as Juan and I were working on the book, I sat down and said, we're going to do a say this, not that session. And so I said, these are the things, and we've got sort of a pyramid of the conversation and where you go. So I'll just read a couple of them. But okay, so don't say, what we found was equipment so out of date, I can't believe anyone would allow this to happen, right? You're insulting a decision that this business owner signed off on at some point, whether or not they knew what they were signing off anyway, right? Instead, during our assessment, we found several concerns and opportunities. So you're identifying some risk, but they hear opportunities, right? And if you're going to make them more productive, right, or faster technology, et cetera, opportunity sounds good. Less like I've done something wrong.
Yes, I lean in when I hear opportunities. When I hear, I can't believe you let this happen, I'm like, well, goodbye.
Right. Who wants to, I don't want to, like, I didn't invite you here to insult me. Right. Sort of, we hear this sometimes or see it on websites. We don't say this. Since we sell uptime, I'm already like, what? We will be replacing your firewall, your router, and your access points with the latest and greatest. So you have ultimate throughput, security, and connectivity. Please just don't say throughput. Please, please. Instead, how about one of the biggest things you mentioned at the beginning of our conversation was you wanted it to just work. so you can focus on growing your business. Our process and plan have been specifically tailored to provide outcomes to support you in your business, right? Like what you really want is it to just work. And I promise I'm never going to say the word thrupput.
I don't know any business owner that wakes up in the morning and says, I just want more connectivity. Like, that is such an industry buzzword that, yes, your clients probably sort of know what it means, but I'm like, they don't know why a new firewall router and blah, blah, blah is going to impact uptime. They're just like, well, it's been up so far. I don't understand why there's a problem.
Yeah.
I love it.
So we've got more examples like that in the book where they're really trying to make it actual, like I said about the weather, everybody's talking about it, nobody's doing anything about it. All the coaches say do business reviews, like go to any industry event and you will have a packed room in the session on quarterly business reviews. But it's few and far between when someone's giving you the actual pieces of this is an element to include, and these are the elements to not include. So that's what Juan and I were trying to, take our experiences. I did business reviews as a customer success lead for a huge ed tech company. So I've seen hundreds of business reviews, and I've seen them really bad. And then we know how to make them strategic. So that's what we were trying to put in this edition of the book.
Now, is this going to be a series? Because it read like it was the first of several, many.
Yeah, it definitely is. So Juan knows everyone in the space and has a lot of friends that want to share in different categories for sure. So this next book, we actually have a few secret guests who will have their own avatars in the book. But the next one is all about moving the world to SaaS. So now we'll call it the Sassy edition. So
nice.
That's the one that's coming next. Yeah, I like that one, especially the artist that I know who did our avatars made our little badass stances with my ninja scarf around the head.
So she even made you a little sassy.
Exactly.
I like it. Very, very cool. Okay, so that's what's coming next with your books. So you're gonna soon be like a 12-time author.
We're just trying to get to 3 right now.
Okay, all right. So right now it's a 2-time author, soon to be 3-time author. What's coming up next with Lifecycle Insights, and maybe get a running start? Tell us what just happened and maybe hint at what's coming soon.
Yeah, so we just had a huge release 2 weekends ago. We have new integrations with SaaSleo and Smileback. So again, when you're having the conversations with your clients, to not bring 6 different reports from 6 different platforms where you make your client like have to relearn how to look at graphs to pull it into one place makes a lot of sense for folks. So we have those 2 integrations that just came out. We also did a Kanban board style recommendation roadmap. So you can drag and drop. And when you're in front of the client with a whole list of 2 things, this is what you haven't scheduled yet. And these are the ones you've declined, right? You leave those declined, right? So, all right, you're leaving all this risk on the table. Do we want to move that? This is the perfect time before end of year. If I can make no other recommendation, everyone needs to head to their clients and help project out the budget for next year. They may have end of year spend down money. So I'll just put that aside. And then we prettied up all of our reports. So the QBR your customer deserves looks better than it ever has. And we did some cool things with tagging, which allows for a lot of workflow pieces and advanced reporting that our partners have been asking for. That's kind of getting into the weeds, but those folks watching that are happy life cyclers are like, whoop, yes, I had wanted that one.
Yes, I love it. Okay. Can you hint at what's coming?
I can hint at what's coming. So we've had folks asking about fiscal year budgeting. So we're excited. We're going to add a lot of flexibility around that. We've got a report locker. So we've already got an easy button where you can create your report and just switch clients and it rebuilds. We're going to make that functionality a little bit slicker. We're looking at our next integration with Hoodoo. So we're pretty excited about that. And we have a lot of folks in the EU that ask me on the regular, when are you going to get an EU instance of Lifecycle Insights data to comply with GDPR? So we're super excited that we're going to get to do that too.
Excellent. Now, is that Q4, Q1? Like
Q4?
when?
Yeah, no.
Excellent.
Yeah. Our developers do not mess around.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. Those are some great integrations and great improvements. So that's exciting. And I'm excited for you guys. And you're going to be at IT Nation Connect, right?
We will be there in full force. So Alex will be bringing the QBR playbook. So he's got a session on running the QBR playbook. So for sure, folks will want to attend that. I'll have both books available. And we're doing tech tailgating with 6 of our other vendor friends in the space. So you'll recognize us because we'll all have our team jerseys on, and we'll be, kind of consolidating prizes. So there will be some huge cash prizes that we're offering to folks. So it'll be fun. Good to see people. We're excited to go.
Let's talk about that tech tailgate because we've got a couple of minutes. Is that on the main show floor? Is that one evening? Like, how do we find that?
Yep. So we are all decorating our booths the same way. So we'll have the same backdrop. It'll be a football field. And, so it'll be very obvious like, oh, there are 7 football teams out there. Right. So that is part of the theme. We all have trading cards. So you can get all the players. So our business cards will be trading cards with some stats about us on the back. We do have jerseys. So we all have our team jersey of our, team colors, etc. Some pretty cool swag. So we've done it up in the swag world. We're either going to be presenting out of a grill or delivering books and beer koozies out of a cooler to keep up with the tailgating theme.
I like it.
And then we have a landing page. So folks that can't come live can still access prizes and information about all of us on our landing page. And then anybody we'll have a passport too, where you can stamp. And if you get to all 7 of us, we've got little playbooks. So you can see exactly we are all pretty close together. That, like I said, we're pooling our cash for some big cash prizes for folks.
I love it. Amazing. I love the creativity. Can't wait to see that come to be and actually watch it live in person. Okay. So I feel like everybody knows Lifecycle Insight, but can you please tell me how people can get a hold of you if they're ready for a demo? This is the quarter they're going to get serious about this. How do they find you?
So lifecycleinsights.io. I suspect the other domain folks get some business from us, but we're lifecycleinsights.io. I am Marnie.Stockman at lifecycleinsights.io. The convenient thing about being named Marnie is you can also find me on LinkedIn easily by just putting Marnie Stockman on LinkedIn and I'll pop up. So we'd love to chat. And whether you want a life cycle or not, if you just want to talk about your business review and how to make it better or how to have a business outcome conversation instead of a technical, tactical one, we're happy to chat anytime.
I love it. Yeah. And I know you guys talk a lot about sales as well and how to improve your sales process as well. So yeah, you guys are a wealth of information and you're always willing to give back. So I really appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate you having me. Love chatting the QBRs, customer success all the time. Yeah.
Likewise. All right. Have an amazing rest of your day and I'll see you in about a month in Orlando.
Yes. Yeah. See you there.
Take care.